Is there a sneaky Chargers running back you should take a long look at in your playoff challenge lineups? Should you be grabbing a Bears receiver for your roster in the competition? And what would our lineups look like if Dave and I were submitting entries into the contest? Plus, the 2018 FFPC Terminator runner-up Joe Conte dropped by the show to talk about his 4 Football Guys titles and his main event league championship and much more. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Thanks so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations, each and every one of you Balkaholics and Gerzak addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Coming up on tonight's show, we'll discuss the Antonio Brown situation and give you some tips and picks for the FFPC Playoff Challenge launching tomorrow afternoon. Plus, the 2018 Terminator runner-up Joe Conte will be here shortly to discuss when he starts his prep for next year and why 2018 was so successful, yet bittersweet for him as well. Shout out to the chat room right now. You can post all the questions and comments you might have for us in there as the show goes on. On Twitter, we are at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Dave is at David Gerzak. You can post on Facebook.com/HSFF Hour. 347-426-3682 is the phone number. 347-426-3682. 347 Game Over. You can also email the show at the inbox. highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us or for Joe, now's the time to send them in. We'll try to get to all of the chat room questions, the tweets, the emails later on in the show. And our producer, mutual friend, Rob, audio engineer Bryce, reminding me right now that Dave and I will actually be giving you what our lineups would look like in the FFPC Playoff Challenge. That's what we're going to close the show with tonight. And speaking of closing, Dave, the time is running out to sign up for the Playoff Challenge. I believe, are we under 300 teams remaining, 300 entries left?
297, Balky.
297 teams remaining in the competition. That means almost, that's almost 4,000 teams have already signed up, so you can get an idea of how fast they're going. By the time, if you're listening to this tomorrow morning or early afternoon, it's probably sold out by then. So if you want to play playoff fantasy football, now is the time to get in.
Well, we will have those 20-man mini.
Oh, I don't know if we will.
We can announce those.
Well, are we announcing them right now before the contest sells out?
Look, Balky, it's going to sell out. We can announce it now. Balky, look, it's going to sell out. We can announce it now.
All right, so once that does sell out, we will once again be bringing back those 20-team. It's the FFPC Playoff Challenge Minis. You can sign up for those. Now, remind me, Dave, those are also $200 a team, and first place in those gets a couple thousand? Is that what it was?
$2,000.
$2,000.
And I think second is $1,000 and third is $400.
Fourth is you're fired.
And fourth is your guy. Instead of steak knife.
Yeah, instead of steak knife. Well,
don't say
that.
Fourth was you were fired.
Okay, there you go. So that you can check that out at myffpc.com/playoff challenge. $200,000 grand prize, $750,000 in the prize pool, $200 entry as well. And again, for the playoff challenge mini, it's the same idea: 10-player lineup, 1 player per team, and you have to register tomorrow because the NFL playoffs start tomorrow. If you are looking for tips, Bourbon City Ballers is in the chat room right now, and he already said that he's changed his playoff challenge lineup about 1,000 times. Can't decide which way he wants to go. If you're looking for some strategy, looking for some tips, rotoviz.com/podcast this week. You can check out Tejas Badiwala and Harshal Sheth. They are the 2015-16 playoff challenge winners. $100,000 they won for that. Dave, I'm bearing the lead a little bit here. They have 4 top 20 finishes in this contest in their history. So they definitely know what they're doing here. Yeah. And we talked to them, or I got a chance to talk to them, and they spilled the beans on a couple of sleepers in there too, which we may or may not get into tonight. But that is.
Why do you feel like that?
Well, I'm just saying, like, I don't know if the conversation's gonna be. Okay, I'll give you one of them. Not right now, but when it comes later on in the show, it will come up naturally, and I'll tell you who one of their sleepers was, and then to hear the rest, you have to download it. All right, so that's what's going on there. Let's get to tonight's guest, ladies and gentlemen. He's been very patient here, and I want to get him on for sure. He made Barry Sanders his first fantasy draft pick in the early 1990s. He's been playing at the high-stakes level for the last decade and a half. He was the 2010 FFPC Bare Knuckle Challenge champion. He's added more titles to his resume this year, including 4 FPC league titles, 1 main event league championship, as well as coming up just short as the second-place finisher in this year's Terminator tournament. Please welcome on to the show, Mr. Joe Conte. Joe, Happy New Year to you, man.
Hey, guys. Happy New Year to you. How you doing?
We're doing good. Excited to have you on tonight. I don't know if this isn't necessarily fantasy football news, but we had exchanged a few emails prior to the show, and your cousin, actually the new prime minister of Italy, which is shocking.
I know. God help us all. He, I can just say, in true Conte fashion, he's not a socialist.
Oh, there you go. Not a socialist.
So does he get elected, or is it like an appointment position, or how does that work?
No, he's elected. So now I've never met him, but he's very close in the family. So I plan to go over there and see what kind of favors he can do me.
Yeah, rolling up the red carpet over there for you, Joe.
Some property on the coast.
Yeah, but remember, there's nothing to rent in Tuscany, Dave. Everything in Tuscany.
Yeah, those villas are always booked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't even try.
Yes,
all right, Joe. We want to get into fantasy football here in a second, but tell us what you do for a living when you're not playing high stakes fantasy football.
I'm what you call a bean counter. I'm a CPA here in Silicon Valley, where it's actually freezing right now.
Out there.
A lot of beans.
Is it really?
That's where all the money is.
In the world.
Yeah, no kidding. What's the temperature in Silicon Valley right now if it's freezing?
I'm telling you, Balky, it's freezing. It got down to 32 degrees last night, which I know in Wisconsin that's called summer. In Wisconsin that's called summer, I guess. But
that's nice.
That's shorts weather up here for sure.
Balky in shorts. Wow. Nice image.
Yeah, no, that's trust me, it's not a pretty sight. Dave, let's save us from this conversation before we get into more of my chalky white skin thighs.
Anyway, Joe, so Eric, you told me you came very close to winning Terminator this year. You didn't really give me all the details. You came up a little bit short. Can you tell us the story as to what happened to your squad the last few weeks of the season?
Wow. This is still a fresh wound, guys. Thanks.
Let's open it up.
It feels like therapy or intervention or something. But if anybody's listening, they're probably going to think I'm crazy. But there's like this curse that follows me around sometimes in these big events. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you honestly, as of today, I don't even know the final results of the Terminator. I stopped looking. I think it was week 15. I checked. I don't spend a lot of time with fantasy football actually, so I checked in about week 9 and on the overall, and I think there was one team ahead of me there, Cocktails and something, and and then I went on a run, and by week 13, by the time the regular season was over, I was about 200 points ahead of the next team. So I thought, I was getting a little cocky. I thought, that's good. But when you average the points, I think then you start off with maybe a 20 points, start with week 14. And in week 14, I put up 240, and then I got real cocky. And I thought, I've got a 50-point lead. I was averaging 200 points a week, and then got a little cocky. And then things started happening. I started losing all my running backs. I lost. First was Kerryon Johnson, and I was really deep at running back. I lost him. I lost James Conner, and then. The real kicker was I decided to drop my other running backs and just go with two, which was Aaron Jones and Zeke. And then, of course, week 15, I think it was week 15, yeah. So week 15, all hell broke loose. Aaron Jones goes out. I lose him. Not only is he out, he goes out in the very first quarter. So I think I picked up a big fat zero for that spot. All right, so and I had just dropped another running back, so that backfired on me. And then I started seeing things like Derrick Henry, who's been a stiff for most of the year in fantasy football, all of a sudden put up like 47 points. And I thought, this is odd. This is, starting to get a little strange there. So, and then I, just felt like, man, I don't even want to see this, what's going on. So I just let it go. And I after putting up 200 points a week, I think I had 111 that week. And I thought I'm done, So, and other things, I think Mahomes was cooling off a little bit. I'm not sure, but so I don't even know where I finished. The only reason I knew that I finished somewhere near the top is I was trying to get in the playoff contest here, and I noticed my account had some more dollars in it, and that was the Terminator, so I guess I finished it.
Joe,
honestly,
we need more help.
I'm not petty.
That was great.
I live in, I like to live in denial. I don't even look. I don't want to see. I don't know who won it, but he's a bastard, and no, I mean, congratulations. He's lucky. But
Joe, I'll tell you this. If it makes you feel better, I'm just looking at Chad Schroeder, one of his tweets coming up after week 15. He tweeted a picture of his last 3 drops in the Terminator, and he dropped Robbie Gould in week 13, and Gould went off for 20-plus points. He drops Derrick Henry in week 14 when Henry put up, 40-plus, almost 50 points that week. Yeah, and then the following week he dropped Mike Williams, who I believe had 3 touchdowns that week, including a rushing one. So that's about you can't get much worse than that. I don't know if that makes you feel better about it at all, but you are not alone in being cursed in Terminator, at least.
No, somehow I don't feel bad for Chad, but it's nice to see that the big boys, stuff like that happens. But it just gets weird sometimes, things happen and you start to get a sense of things going south fast. So. It was weird. Mike Williams was another odd thing, too. And I knew somebody had him in the Terminator contest that was within striking distance. So, and then the final week, I had a zero from, I think I had a zero from Aaron Jones. And then Kittle had a down week the week before. I think he faced the Bears, and he was kicking butt the whole time. But he had sort of a down week facing them. So I think I put up 145. And the last game of the season was a Monday night game, Denver. I had the defense against Oakland, and they didn't show up. They got 0 points. So I was hoping for a big night there. So, yeah, I mean, it happens, I guess. So it's more
Indeed
of a failure than
Joe, I got to tell you, it was a rough show for you right at the end of the Terminator. You you beat out 358 teams essentially for at least second place. So it was a success. It just wasn't maximum success there. Dave, go ahead.
We did kick out about 40 people.
Yeah, that's
for not terminating. To be honest,
players.
It was 40 people who don't know it, didn't pay attention.
So 318 teams you beat out. Still, overall, it was a banner year for you. You got 4 football guys titles. You got a main event league championship as well as second place overall in the Terminator. I'm just curious, as you look back on the 28th season, thinking about how you built, how you managed these teams, do you think there was an overarching theme or a strategy that worked out for you really well in 2018? Did you go after a lot of the same players that were hits and really came through for you this year? Did you avoid, the injury bug by and large? Did you avoid a lot of busts? What was the story for you in 2018 that made it such a good year overall?
Well, one final thing on the Terminator. I did the first one that FFPC ever had, and I got lucky and won that one. And that was funny because that first year, Dave didn't send out those reminder emails, so people were getting terminated left and right. It was pretty funny. Now Dave, sends you an email, so there's really no excuse for that. But
that's what I tell people who argue with me. But go ahead.
Well, So in answer to your question, you would think, as a CPA, because I really became a CPA out of like fantasy football stuff. When I was a kid, I used to design Stratomatic games with dice and things like that, and ran local leagues. So all the aptitude tests said be a CPA, and I said, great, what's that? So it's kind of connected. But in answer to your question, I don't do a lot of analytics. I don't do flowcharts. I don't follow pretty much any sites. I basically look at one site for information. I'm kind of an eye test guy. So what I mean by that is, I'll watch a guy run a ball a couple of times or catch a ball, and I just get gut feelings on players. And I have a tendency to go after certain players with a certain style. So I basically had the same players on most of my teams, and what I would do is I would try to grab a stud back, and if I had the first 6 picks, and then I would go away from all running backs and just load up on receivers, and then when the running back value hit, I would say 5th or 6th round, I went after the upside players like Aaron Jones and carry on. And then I would wait on a tight end, especially in a draft master type of league. So the teams I had Mahomes everywhere. I had Juju-Schuster. I took him in every league because I like his name, Juju. And Tyreek Hill. It's just a cool name. And and then I tried to get Kittle in a lot of leagues, but I misjudged on him a number of times. And then, late picked up Mahomes, and, he had a phenomenal year. So he carried some of my shortcomings of my teams by, putting up those huge weeks.
Joe and I are kind of like kindred spirits because I love picking players, not solely because of their names, but I love Juju's name. Tyreek's name is great.
You're big on image and appearances too.
Yeah,
I would say.
I'm a really shallow person in general, but even about fantasy.
Well, you're infamous for never drafting Giovanni Bernard because he had a quote weird ass.
Yeah, so look at how he's doing.
Yeah, no, that's good analysis. Yeah,
I was right all along.
Yeah, I'm not going to fault you for that.
All right, Joe. We've been playing. You and I have been. We've met a bunch of times in person. You've been around since the WCOF days. When did you first start playing? Did you play WCOF in 02, 03, 04?
I did. I played the whack-off. I went there. I think it was around that time, and I immediately went into the draft master format, and I joined that big contest, and I got lucky that first year. And I was drafted next to guys that I would, and eventually would see all over the place. The Hubbards and the Kirk, I forgot his last name, something or other.
Kikas.
So, yeah, exactly. I think he's an Altadena assassin. I drafted right next to him, and he was cursing me every pick. He was cursing me. Who is this guy? He's getting pissed. And then we ended up, we finishing 1-2 on that, and I met him later on. But I did play the whack-off, and enjoyed some success there, but had some close calls, some real close finishes. I just have one. When I talk about the curse, it's because of this one story. I had a team, and I was, in the main event, and I was winning. And then, before we had a lot of social media and apps on phones and things, I had, right about 5 minutes before a game, my running back, Steven Jackson, pulls up lame and says he's not starting. So I rush home, and I'm trying to get home to my computer and put in the tight end. I think I forgot who the tight end's name was, but I had him. And I was 1 minute late getting to the computer, so I got a big fat 0 from Steven Jackson, and the tight end went off for 30 points, and I would have won the event. So I was in therapy for months, But those things happen to everybody. Those things happen to everybody.
Crazy, though. So what about is your strategy? Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Has your strategy during all the years that you've been playing, has your strategy evolved over the years, or do you feel like it's still kind of consistent? More like the main event type side of it.
Well, you have to be aware. I have to be aware of the type of league you're playing in. Like the game has changed. It was running back centric. So in the old days, it was real easy to draft stud backs, and then it's changed into a passing league. So I basically draft value. I don't think that I'm just an average player, I think. But what I see a lot of guys do is they'll draft out of need, and instead of taking value at the position. So I don't care if I don't have a tight end or don't have whatever the position is. If I have tiers, and if I see a guy that's worth more, then I just take whatever the value is instead of chasing the position.
Joined by Joe Conte tonight, the second place team. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, I am drawn a lot to the draft master. I don't know what you guys call it really, format, because it requires little work. I don't have a lot of time to follow fantasy football, so those don't require a lot of action, and it makes up for a shortcoming I have in the redraft leagues, is that I think in my history for 20 years I've never started the optimum lineup on any team. I'm always screwing that up and chasing points, so I'm not real good at that part of it. So the draft master, you get the optimum lineup. So that's why I'm kind of more drawn to that type of league.
Second place team in the FFPC Terminator in 2018, Joe Conte joining us here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight, talking about the playoff challenge, talking about the all the success that he's had this year. And I'm curious, and you mentioned George Kittle earlier, and you can expand on that a little bit, but when you look back at your waiver wire bids and your draft picks in a lot of your leagues, is there any ones that you'd like to have a mulligan on? Players that you wish you would have, that you were close to drafting more that ended up hitting that you didn't get, and that might be George Kittle, or players maybe you were overweight on a little bit and wish you wouldn't have taken them in so many leagues?
Well, yeah, I have. If you had a first 5 pick, it was a conundrum for me because I didn't have any number 1 pick. So I often had a number 2 pick. And I know with like a few of the teams I had, I took Le'Veon Bell, and we all know how that turned out, right? So, but I struggled with those few picks there, David Johnson, et cetera, in that area. But, that also, too, I kind of relearn lessons every year, and, I learned this year a little bit that I'd rather take good players from good offenses, good players from great offenses, than great players on bad offenses, because I was taking guys that played on poor offensive teams sometimes, and that kind of backfire. I would say Corey Davis underperformed in my mind where I took him in a number of leagues. So I try to find the great offenses and find anybody, on that team, like with Kansas City's an example. Regarding the picks I hit on, I have, in redraft leagues, I find quite a bit that people have all their money left at the end of the season. I'm thinking, you can't take it with you. You might as well, blow the wad. So I'll do that early on. I'll try to identify somebody I didn't draft, and that is a free agent, and I will, shoot the free agent wad on, try to get him everywhere I can, not knowing when the next opportunity comes. So I did that this year with a player. It was Philip Lindsay. So I spent a big portion of that, and I got him on most of my teams. I wasn't bright enough to draft him, because I didn't really follow him a whole lot. I don't know many teams that drafted him, but there was some. I did see some really good players draft him, and so he helped my teams quite a bit. As well. And after that, I used the remaining free agent dollars to do subtle moves, switching defenses and match up things like that. So,
did you ever have any shares of Tyler Boyd at all in any of your leagues? Because he was a pretty successful wide receiver pickup.
I tried to get him in one of my leagues. I went after him strong because I had my main event. I had AJ Green, and had a big hole at that position, and I went after him pretty well, but I only got him in that one league, I think, in a couple leagues. I did draft him in some draft master leagues, but was not able to get him. I think with like Lindsay, people were still really unaware after that first game. Like with him, I look at a player and I just get a feeling on him. When I saw him run one play, I thought there was something kind of special about him, the way he ran the ball. So I don't think a lot of guys knew about him. Tyler Boyd seemed like everybody was all over that, and I didn't have much money left. So.
Well, plus Lindsay came so early in the season. I think a lot of players they were tentative and didn't hesitant to spend money early, and they didn't want to blow like $400 or $500 on Lindsey, especially when it was like week 1 or 2, and you just had to do it right then, right?
Yes, and that's what I did, because that next opportunity may not come for a long time in the season. And with the FFPC, you have to move early because the season is only 11 weeks. And quite frankly, with a season that short, I think some of my best teams I've ever had never made the playoffs because they started slow, finished stronger. So that you have to figure that. But those same guys that would tell me that ended the season with all their free agent dollars still in the account. So, man, you might as well take a shot at it.
Joe, I want to get back to a player that you had mentioned in answering this question. That's Corey Davis, a guy that I think everybody would agree underperformed this year. As you looked at 2019, are you concerned about him at all in as far as him developing into maybe like a top 20, top 15 receiver in fantasy football? I know Mariota had some injuries this year, and they're running a new offense. But what's your outlook on Corey Davis going forward?
It's not good, quite frankly. I mean, he has the skills. It's limited. The problem is he's limited by that offense. He is limited by the way they run that offense. The guy, rare exceptions, he'll get 2 or 3 targets a game. He'll be a decoy. He'll block. Unless they have a more up-tempo offense or a different quarterback, I'm not going there again, because he was so inconsistent. He would tease you with a good week. And he's got the skills. I just don't think, again, I don't want to take players from those sluggish offenses in my mind. That's, and I learned my lesson with him a bit. I mean, he didn't cost me a whole lot. I mean, I got him kind of, maybe 5th or 6th round, something like that. But I don't have a good outlook for him at all, unless something changes in Tennessee.
So, Joe, I know I have an indication as to what your answer might be, given that if you are a CPA and April 15th is tax season, the deadline, and of course, entrepreneurs like myself, we never actually file on time. We're always just getting the second, not the first.
Or file at all.
The second extension. Yeah, sometimes I just, skipped Antigua for a couple of years. Anyway, as you look back on the, sorry, wrong question. So as we are now in playoff mode, the question really is, when do you start to prep for next year? And what are the first steps that you take in that preparation? Is it after April 15th, you take a week-long vacation, or do you wait until like in July and August even?
You know what? Fantasy football, the only reason I play is because it fits in perfectly with being CPA. My down months are September through December. So those are perfect. Those are football months. So I play, and as soon as the season is over, I go into my dark rabbit hole called tax season, and nothing else exists until, April. I come out of my hole, and I don't think about football. I don't watch football, anything at all. So, as I get out of that, then what I'll start doing, because I'm pretty lazy. I don't do a lot of research and analysis. I really don't. I have to be forced to do it. So when May comes around and I start, getting my energy back and whatnot, the only way for me to prepare, quite honestly, is to get involved in some 30-round DraftMaster type of draft, small dollar ones. So it kind of forces me to evaluate players and go deep into the rosters to find out, who's there, how people are drafting them. I don't watch college football, so I'm at a disadvantage. I some of these guys that draft are all over the rookie class. They know them well. I don't. So, I want to see where they're drafted. It forces me to do a little more deep research. So that's what I'll do for a few months. That's about all I do is just, get on some of these DraftMaster things like the Live 35s or whatever and do it that way. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, let me tell you, not knowing about the rookies a lot of times can be a benefit to you, because we get a lot of dynasty players in, and I've said this a number of times, where they get the rookie fever. And then you look at their redraft teams. I mean, seriously, we've done this, Bucky, where we do the pros versus Joes, and we can tell a dynasty player, because they'll have drafted like 9 rookies in their first 13 picks. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? These guys are all rookies. They're not even starting for their own team.
We heard Cornfin's Jeff Tirabassi said how difficult it is to switch from dynasty to redraft, and we've seen Lance Turbis, who's one of the biggest dynasty players I know. I've seen him do football guys drafts where it's like, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, like his first 9 picks will be rookies.
I honestly think he took, in a football guys draft, I think he took Brandon Cooks when Cooks was being drafted in the 7th round.
Yeah.
He took him like in the
third. It was like
round.
the 309 his rookie year, and I remember
he might have been a little inebriated or stoned.
He said he was pretty high and drunk, but at the same time, I was commissioning that draft and I was hanging out with you that night, and we were kind of surprised at some of the picks in the first 2 rounds, and then I saw Cooks' name go up. I'm like, whoa, look at this one, Dave. And then there's obviously a lot of jokes about Lance in the chat after that. But yeah, I mean, you got to get your guys, and you do it how it is. Joe, let's get. And by the way, second place team in the FFPC Terminator, Joe Conte, joining us tonight, former bare knuckle champion, 4 football guys titles this year, as well as the FFPC main event title. You said you really liked the Terminator. You owned a bunch of teams in it this year. You kind of alluded to it a little bit, but what is it about that specific competition, the Terminator tournament, that makes it so much fun for you?
Now, first of all, I'd like to say, I remember Lance. Lance is a character, and nothing he does that's strange would surprise me. I drafted next to him in a FFPC main event, and I think I was high from the fumes of Lance's drinks next to me. He's a character, man. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he's a good dude. In terms of your question, like I say, I like low management. I like the Terminator option because it's real easy. You just drop a guy that pisses you off, and it's useless, and you don't have to look at his name anymore. It's low management for me. I don't have a lot of time to spend on football, especially the last few years with family obligations that I have. Kids, parents, etc. So I like that feature of it, and it's a nice twist. Try to figure out who to drop. So, and I also believe, the first year I did it, and when I won it, I noticed that people were making what I thought were bad drop choices. Chad's probably saying, "Yeah, talk to me about it." And so I didn't agree with a lot of. They didn't see the field. They would take one, a couple of weeks, and they'd take a player and drop them. Where I would try to hold on to players I thought would eventually come around. And like this year, I was. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe. I'll let you finish, but I have a question after you're done.
I was going to say I was always pissed off at Mike McCarthy because, anybody could see that Aaron Jones should be playing, yet he held the guy back for so long. It ticked me off to no end. When they did put him in, he performed,
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, everyone here in Wisconsin totally agrees with you and thought McCarthy blew that one. So at least he'll be coaching in Cleveland or wherever soon. But let me ask you this. And this is advice that a lot of people need to get. How do you make your cuts? I mean, do you set a reminder or what do you do so that you don't screw up and get the inevitable "I'm sorry that we had to kick you out of the contest" email from me?
Well, that's easy. I don't play in a lot of leagues. I think I played in a total of 6 football guys leagues, and I got lucky and won 4. I don't play in a lot of leagues, so it's not that tough to keep track of. A lot of these guys, I don't know how they do it, man. They're amazing. They play in hundreds of leagues. It's crazy. I mean, I drafted 6 football guy teams, and I think Dave Hubbard drafted 6 of them in one day. So when you own more teams than you can handle, you'll forget more things like that. It was easy for me because I didn't have that much going on. And I waited for Dave's email, and what I did is especially with Terminators, I would set a day that I would drop, and I would do them all at the same time so that I wouldn't forget one or two. If I was indecisive, I would just make a decision because I know how weekends get. So it was easy with Dave's help, and in the first year it was crazy. Everybody would forget, and everybody would get cut off. So. We felt a little bad about
that
one. Yeah, I think I had a few issues at the time in terms of dropping players or whatnot, and guys do get ticked off. And even this year, I drafted a number of teams, and in each league I saw somebody suddenly disappear, like they were whacked, So. I think it adds a fun twist to it, and it's like I said, it's easy to manage.
You know, Joe, I'm not Italian, but sometimes I have to whack. We got to whack people.
That happens. That's any walk of life.
Well, you know what? I'm Italian. I totally understand that. I've got an uncle in the mob, and my favorite character in The Godfather was Luca Brasi. Although he fits with the fish.
Yeah.
They got a list. Everybody has a list. Everybody has a list of people you'd want to whack. I mean, it just is.
I'm more of a leave the gun, take the cannoli type guy myself. Joe, I want to get to there's one. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. There is one email I wanted to get to tonight. Yes. Dan in Perrine, I think it's pronounced Perrine, Florida. He writes, "Hey, Joe, is Todd Gurley the slam dunk choice in the playoff challenge for the Rams, or am I better off going in a different direction?" Thanks, man. That's Dan in Perrine, Florida. Your thoughts on, because I know Gurley had that knee issue towards the end of the season. It sounds like it's improving. I don't know how good it's going to be, and you got to make the decision before tomorrow, even though the Rams don't play until next week. So what are your thoughts as far as a Ram in the competition? Is it Gurley?
Yeah, he's sandbagging. They've been getting him ready. I don't think there's any other way to go. With this contest, you're limited to one player per team, and I think Dan, if he goes in another direction, he's going to be kicking himself, quite honestly. With Gurley, with the receivers, I think you might contemplate Woods, but after Kupp went out, I don't have a lot of confidence in any of the receivers. Each week it's a different receiver. I think Gurley's fine. To be honest with you, I would, I'm going to probably go with him. So I think Dan will be all right.
There you go. Dave,
yeah.
I don't have, there weren't a whole lot of emails this week. I think everybody was so dialed into to their playoff challenge emails. Unless you have a follow-up, I think we can ask Joe our final question.
All right, final question. After Joe leaves, I have a Gurley comment. But
Oh, okay. All right, fine.
So,
do you want to make the Gurley comment now or no?
Well, yeah, okay, I will. But what do you guys think? What teams out of 4,250? How many do you think will own Gurley?
The percentage chance of or the percentage of Gurley ownership, I would imagine be in the 70 to 75%.
You think that? I think that might be a tad high. What do you think, Joe?
I'll go with 80.
80. Okay.
So this will play into the point you're about to make, Dave, I think.
Yeah, my point I'm about to make is that's 4,250 teams times $200. Let's say it is 80%. That means $680,000 of players' money cumulatively is riding on Todd Gurley's knee.
Riding on Todd Gurley's knee. Yep.
Almost $700,000.
Right.
On Todd Gurley's knee, which, by the way, he did say 11 hours ago in a news article is not 100% yet.
But again, that's but hold on, Dave. And to Joe's point, that is what he is saying.
Why would he lie?
Well, I mean,
is he in the playoffs again?
Well, I'm just saying, like, there's no reason. There's
no reason for him to lie.
There's no reason for him to tell the truth. Yeah, that's exactly my point.
Calling him a liar.
I'm not calling him a liar. I think
I
think there's a reason that players say stuff. There's a reason that it gets out there. Now maybe his knee's not good, but I think Joe makes some good points here.
All right, 680 grand. Anyway, Joe, give us the guy.
I agree with Balky.
Go ahead.
I agree with Balky on that. And at this point, who's 100%? And who's 100% at this point?
Hunter Henry.
Tyreek Hill? No.
Hunter Henry.
No,
yeah.
don't you go there.
Right.
Don't you go there. Don't go there.
Scott Johnson, who we love, he's great. He emailed
Coach's Crunchers.
Yeah, he emailed and he's like, "Hey, how come Hunter Henry is not included on the list?"
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know. So I just forwarded to James at tech support.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, he's on page 2. He should look on."
So Henry is available.
Yeah, of course he's available. And anyway. So, Joe, sorry, last question. Give us a guy that a lot of high-stakes players will be playing in their playoff challenge lineups that you think should be avoided, and also a playoff challenge sleeper that deserves to be rostered in the contest as well. And you obviously can't say C.J. Anderson now.
Well, don't use Antonio Brown. That's my advice. No, I'm kidding. My thing is. And to answer that question, I'm going to say, I think I want to get a player sort of on. Look, in this league, a lot of teams are going to have identical teams. It just is. So you have to tweak your roster. Maybe one player might make the difference. So In my mind, I think the Chargers are one and done. There's an ugly team out there called the Ravens, and nobody wants to play them. They win ugly. And so I'm not taking – I think there'll be a lot of – I would guess there'd be a lot of Melvin Gordon or Keenan Allen owners. I may be incorrect on that, but I would guess there would be a fairly high percentage of that. In my mind, I would stay away from that and all other quarterbacks. So on the other side, so I would stay away from the San Diego skill players. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think Baltimore wins. And then I think – that they have a real good shot of a decent shot at playing 4 games because I believe Kansas City's faltering. I believe New England's faltering. And I think if you go on the road to those places, the best kind of team that you want is a team like Baltimore that runs, that kills the clock. There's not much pre-snap communication needed. It's more likely to succeed. So, in answer to your Part B question, I don't know if it's a sleeper, but I think Lamar Jackson at quarterback is something I'm going to entertain here and use my other positions for the skill players. I'm not. I think some of the other quarterback choices that are obvious. I'm not going to go. I wouldn't go that route. I would look at that. He doesn't have a huge ceiling, granted, but I think he's improving each game. And I believe, they're going to go a ways, in the playoffs. And, you could free up a position besides quarterback where you can use a skill player. I also like, I don't want to call it a sleeper, but I think the Colts will beat the Texans. I think Luck will throw for another 400 yards and have a big week, and Colts will move on. So that's a pretty good spot. But that's kind of how I'm looking. I'm kind of anti-Chargers.
Anti-Chargers and pro-Ravens.
Well, not
well, pro-Lamar Jackson, I should say.
Yeah, I don't hate the Chargers. I like the Chargers, but I'm sort of, I don't think anybody wants to play the Ravens. I just don't think they're fun to play. They win ugly, and that defense is tough. It's cold. I think I could see them going in. They've played well in the past against Belichick teams, and I think Kansas City's faltering some. I think they gave Kansas City all they could handle in Arrowhead, if I'm not mistaken, a few weeks ago.
That Kansas City defense still scares me as far as the Chiefs getting into the playoffs. I think you make some good points there about them not peaking right now, for sure. Joe, you clearly peaked on this podcast tonight. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I know we kept you a little bit longer tonight, but great stuff from you. Congratulations on the success this year. Good luck in the playoff challenge as well. I hope you end up doing some damage there. And we'll talk to you again real soon, dude. We'll see you out in Vegas for sure. Thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for the therapy session. And just shout out to Chris Lambert. She's awesome of FFPC. I want to just say that. She's great. And thanks you guys, and I hope to see you guys soon too.
Awesome stuff. Joe Conte, ladies and gentlemen, the second place finisher in the FFPC Terminator tournament, and 4 Football Guys titles, an FFPC main event title this year, as well as, the inaugural Bare Knuckle Challenge champion, too. That is not something to sneeze at. He's done it all. And the best part about that interview tonight, we have a lot of people come on this show, and, they have spreadsheets, and there's analytics and number crunching and everything like that. And you have a highly successful high-stakes player who's been at it for a decade and a half. And he had Juju Smith-Schuster on all his teams this year because he liked the name Juju. He thinks Tyreek Hill has a cool name. He had Tyreek Hill on a bunch of teams. And he also blatantly admits, I'm kind of lazy when it comes to analysis. And the guy crushed it this year. Dave had a fantastic season.
And he's a CPA, and he uses numbers, but he didn't have to.
Yeah.
That's because he knows the qualitative analysis is superior to the quantitative-only analysis, Balky.
One other thing I wanted to point out, I did not have the heart to tell him, but Phil Hooten, by the way, who was a guest on this show probably about a month or so ago, won the FFPC Terminator this year, and I did not have the heart to tell Joe that he lost the Terminator by less than 2 points, because he said he didn't look at the final results, he didn't want to see him. And I wasn't going to bring it up on the show, but yeah, he lost by about 1.85 points, something like that on the season. Secret link is being posted in the chat room right now for anyone who wants.
The minis are open only through this show.
If you want to join the FFPC Playoff Challenge Mini, Dave has posted a link into the Blog Talk Radio chat room, we had some problems with it earlier, but it is working now. Bourbon City Ballers wanted to know when the minis are going to be displayed on the website. Dave, for HSFF Hour listeners exclusively can join right now. If you are in the chat room, you'll be able to join one of those 20-team minis.
myffpc.com/playoffchallengemini.asps. I will not even repeat that.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I have been so busy the last week or two, I have not joined one fantasy football playoff contest. Not one. And I feel a little bit left out.
I have not joined one because I really can't. I'm not really sure where they are. I mean, does Kentucky have one?
No, the Kentucky used to do a free one, and
no one else does
don't anymore.
And I can't do them for any other national.
No, I mean
I would only want to go where there's payouts deep enough.
I've gotten invites to like local private, not local, but like national private ones, and I just haven't had the time to formulate a lineup and.
You're such a busy guy. Wow, I mean you're just like you have all this.
You don't need to lay that. I will say this. For the first time in probably 15 years, I did not get in a bowl, college football bowl challenge this year, which it breaks my heart because I love being in those, and I have not had the time, unfortunately, which really stinks. But it is what it is.
Thanks for the info.
Yeah, nobody cares. Absolutely. So that was Joe Conte. Thanks to him coming on. One of the things that we didn't get into with Joe, and we'll get into the fantasy flash shortly. I know we're running out of time fast. The Antonio Brown thing, we don't really have to talk about it a whole lot because there's a lot to be said, Dave. But everybody knows what's going on with him. My personal opinion, I think he's going to be a Steeler next year. I think they give him a little bit of a pay raise. I don't think that his talent has now been dwarfed by his, off-field or off-the-field antics or anything like that. I still think he's integral to the team. I think they find to make it work out, and I don't think we're talking about this in 2 months. I think it's going to be business as usual as the Steelers prepare for another run at the postseason, another deep postseason run next year. Do you disagree with any of that?
I actually disagree. I think he will eventually be dealt. I think he's a cancer to the team.
In the offseason, you think he's going to be dealt?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that it's a better deal for them to do it after June 1st.
After June 1st, if they designate him as a post-June 1st cut or whatever, I know it's less money, it's less of a cap hit. I think they can trade him at any time, and it's not like I don't think that affects the salary cap as much as it would be releasing him. I can't imagine they release him. The Steelers had a headache on their roster all season long in Le'Veon Bell, and they chose to keep that distraction around. I think they're going to keep this distraction around as well. You think he's going to be traded. Can you give us a team or two or maybe more, whatever you want, that you would, A, think he could be traded to, and B, maybe a team that you'd be excited about him for fantasy purposes? I got to tell you, Dave, the situation he's in right now, having Juju Smith-Schuster opposite him, having a blossoming Vance McDonald at tight end, and having a really, really capable running back who could be a second-round pick next year in FFPC drafts, or maybe even a first in James Conner, along with Jalen Samuel, who's shown his ability to carry the mail when Conner's been out. I look at that offense and that quarterback. I mean, that's a great situation for him. I think if he does get dealt, it's only going to ding his fantasy value.
I mean, yeah, there's almost no possible way he could do as well as he's been doing in this near perfect situation with a great quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback.
Right.
And so wherever it is, it will probably be worse. He's still a fantastic player. But usually players, when they move to different teams, they don't do as well.
If you owned him in Dynasty right now, would you be, well, I'd say this, even if you don't own him in Dynasty, are you lowballing? Is it even worth trying? Are you shopping him around? Are you seeing what you can get for him to sort of rid your, because I know you did this with Amari Cooper, I think, last year or 2 years ago, where you sort of just like you didn't want to deal with the headaches with him anymore. And with Antonio Brown, you could see, well, obviously you believe he will be dealt, and it probably won't be to a better fantasy situation. I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are. If you own him, do you shop him around to the other 11 owners in your league. If you don't own him, are you trying to pick him up for a draft pick? Are you trying to pick him up for a receiver of similar ilk to acquire him on your squad? I don't know how you would be treating him in Dynasty right now.
I don't really own Antonio Brown anywhere. If I did own him, I'd probably be looking to sell him, actually, because I think some people may not really be picking up on what, I mean, if I believe, let's say there's a 75% chance he gets dealt, a lot of people are still going to consider maybe your opinion that it's maybe the other direction.
Yeah.
75% chance that he stays. So they may pay Antonio Brown on the Steelers prices where I'm paying Antonio Brown on some crappy team prices.
Well, you know, George Kittle tweeted at him, and Antonio Brown seemed very excited about that. So to see him catching passes from Jimmy Garoppolo next year would certainly be exciting. There is one.
But then there's also a chance he catches passes from Ryan Tannehill's replacement in Miami.
Joe Flacco.
Maybe there's one brow and a lot of
Blake Bortles.
Yeah, whatever.
Eli Manning.
Oh God. I would, any GM who signs Eli Manning should just be, shot.
All right. Well, I don't want to encourage that sort of violence on the show.
Kill him.
There was mea culpa here. There was an email that came across that Rob is bringing to my attention right now that I should have read to Joe, and I didn't, so my apologies. Paul in Anaheim, congrats on your season, Joe. Are you nervous? This is a question for you now, Dave, because Joe's not with us anymore. I mean, he's with us. He's just not on the line. Are you nervous about using any Chargers in the playoff challenge because they could be one and done, or are guys like Gordon and Allen still solid lineup choices? I'm assuming Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen.
Right.
Not Josh Gordon and Josh Allen.
Well, I agree with this point about Baltimore. No offense, Meyer. Yeah, I'd be nervous about using those players.
Can I give you two stats?
Yeah, you give me as many stats as you want, Paul.
Lamar Jackson, this isn't really a stat. Lamar Jackson is
has 0 playoff wins?
No. Well, that's true. He's making his first career start in the NFL playoffs. And what is this, his fifth career start overall? Is that accurate, or is it sixth? Might be sixth.
Okay.
All right. Here's the other one. What was the Chargers' road record this year? Official road record, even though
5-3?
7-1.
Really?
They were 7-1 on the road this year.
Great.
And they're going across 3 time zones. They're playing a very difficult defense. I think the Chargers find a way to get that win. That said, I still would be nervous about these.
Here comes the qualifier.
I'm just telling you, I'd still be a little bit nervous about using Gordon and Allen because I think it's going to be a knockdown,
scoring game?
No, a knockdown, drag-out game that's going to be decided in the last few minutes of the game. So it could go either way. I still think the Chargers find a way to win. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, the line is Ravens -3, and the money line is Baltimore -150, or Chargers +130. So 140 is the true line. So
okay. All right, there you go. I want to thank, let's get into fantasy feedback, and this is like the latest we've ever gotten to fantasy feedback tonight, so we're going to fly through this. I want to thank Football Guys, RotoPass, RotoWorld, and Rob for tonight's rundown. Nick Foles is not on the Eagles' final injury report for the wildcard game against the Bears, according to the Philadelphia Eagles on Twitter. He left last week's game in Week 17 with bruised ribs. He practiced fully both Thursday and Friday as a limited participant. He plays the Bears defense this week, Dave. This is more of a question about the Eagles versus the Bears. It's very, very difficult in an FFPC playoff challenge for me to use any Eagles this week. It's very difficult. I know Nick Foles was the Super Bowl savior last year. I don't think he gets it done in Chicago this week. And I'm quite frankly, as a teaser, not using any Eagles in my playoff challenge lineup.
I am for sure using one Eagle.
Okay. Zach Ertz?
Yep.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, I feel Zach Ertz I do think there's a good chance they lose and he gets a 30 burger on the way out. And everyone's going to be like, oh, crap! I could have used Ertz as a flex or a tight end or whatever the hell I wanted to. Now I got this guy who scored 8 points. I got Melvin Gordon who scored 8 and they moved on. And then the next week he scores 12. He still doesn't score as much as Ertz did in 1 week.
HSFFO or PSA. Dave, don't feel compelled to use the blank burger.
30 burger. I love the burger.
I'm telling you, if you ever wanted to skip using that reference, I'd be fine.
I didn't know that bothered you. Oh, I'm going to have to start using the 30 burger.
What about Alshon Jeffrey in a revenge game, this game against Chicago?
Jeffries?
Yeah.
He's, it's possible, Foles likes to throw to him. Unlike Wentz, I think, hates him. I think he must have some issue with Jeffrey. But Foles always seems to find him wide open.
On the show with Leo and Balky, which you can listen to at 95.3, 99.1 FM, 95.3 in Appleton, 99.1 in Oshkosh, AM 1570 The Score. You can download the Score app or go to the scorewi.com. On the show today, my co-host, Leo Kuiper Jr., said to me that, hey, Balky, did you hear what Alshon Jeffrey said about going back home to play his old team, the Bears? He said, Chicago wasn't my home. Philadelphia was my home. I just worked at Chicago. The Boo Birds are going to be out for Alshon Jeffrey, and if he's the type of guy that feeds off that, look out. Look out.
All right.
Kyle Fuller was actually named first-team All-Pro this year, so he's going to have his work cut out for him against Fuller. But I don't know. There might be something there with Jeffrey. Austin Eckler expects to play in the wildcard game against the Ravens on Sunday, according to Gilbert Manzano on Twitter. Eckler was limited in practice this week. He says the groin injury that he has is, quote, very manageable, and he is going to be the complement to Melvin Gordon. Dave, I know you already said you're nervous about using Melvin Gordon, but Eckler probably is not. He's too deep of a sleeper to use in the playoff challenge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even with his pass-catching chops?
I think so. I mean, if someone wants to really get out there, I think there might be 5 or 6 owners that go that direction. Maybe 10.
Is that what you put the over-under at? 9.5?
What do you think?
I think 9.5 is pretty solid. Out of 4,250.
I don't know which way I want to bet. You want to bet? I'll do 5 on it, but you pick. All
right, I'll take.
We'll take 10. It's 10's the over-under.
10's the over-under. Okay. I will take. God, I don't know which way I want to go on this either. It's such a stupid bet, but I'm going to do it because it's interesting. I will take the. I'm going to take the under.
All right, I'll take the over.
I'll take under 10 teams owning Austin Eckler in the FFPC Playoff Challenge. I got 5 on it.
I got 5 on it. I'll take the over. That'll be fun to check. We'll know that Saturday at 4:40.
I was pointed this. A listener emailed me this week and say, hey, I went to the HSFFOR website and you guys don't have your I got 5 on it results updated yet, which is true. And I told Robbie he needs to get on that. But like all our bets that we made throughout the season, we gotta figure out who won all those.
You actually put that on the site. I thought you just teased it.
No, go to hsffr.com right now. There's an I Got 5 on it tab right at the top. You click on that, and it'll show all the bets that we have.
That's a real website?
That is a real website.
Holy crap!
Yeah. All right, so moving on.
You can't get a better picture of me than this one.
Sticking with the Chargers. You don't let people take your picture, so that is the best we could work with. The Chargers.
I'll get one that's nicely photoshopped.
Okay, perfect.
I'll really lean.
Yeah, that'll work. Do you want to do that super lean one from a few years ago?
No, I mean,
you weighed like 70 pounds and it was all muscle?
I was like 185 at that time.
Was that really 185 in that picture?
When I was super ripped?
Yeah.
That morning I was 161 and change.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I had dehydrated for the picture because we were doing that the thing. So I didn't have any water since like 4 p.m. the day before. So I had no water. I had a half a piece of cake per the advice given.
Why a half a piece of cake?
I don't know, just a little bit of carbs, and then like 2 glasses of wine to dehydrate myself that night before.
Right.
Which actually I'm not even sure if that was advised, but I just did it anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I was on a 161 and change.
I showed the picture to my mom, and I said, yeah, Dave used to look like this, and she kind of hit me on the shoulder when she saw it. She goes, that's not Dave. I'm like, yeah, that's Dave. She's like,
that was me for one day.
She's like, that's not real. I'm like, no, it's real. She's like, I don't believe it. And that was it.
Which is sad. It's just how sad I look right now.
Dave, you could not. That is not healthy to look like that for a long period of time.
No, it's true actually. Probably.
I mean, you might be healthier now.
I feel fine.
Good.
I'm enjoying life.
That's all that matters. I want to stick on the Chargers tip right now as we get back to fantasy football. They have not yet activated Hunter Henry, who tore his ACL in July ahead of the wild card game against Baltimore, according to Sam Fortier on Twitter. Adam Schefter actually reported on Monday that Henry was expected to make his season debut this week, but the Chargers have not activated him yet. He has been practicing since mid-December, about 7 months since he tore his ACL at the OTAs. Antonio Gates and Virgil Green are the tight ends. Dave, we already know, thanks to Scott Johnson's query, you can put Hunter Henry in your lineup for the FFPC Playoff Challenge. Not something I would advise, despite the tight end premium scoring.
I agree. How many people...
Oh, here we go.
Do you think will have Hunter Henry in there?
You set the over-under on this one.
70.
Under.
I'm not sure I want to bet over the 70 though.
Yeah, it's not. It's not
All
good.
right, 40?
Under.
30? All right, 35?
You tell me what you take.
35. I'll take over 35 for $5.
All right, I'll say under 35.
This is so stupid. This is a dumb one. But I'll still take over 35 because I set the over/under. I'm going to lose this one.
All right, so I had under on Eckler, and I also have under on Henry.
Yeah.
All right, so I got
10
and 35. All right, that sounds good. I got 5 on
I
it.
got 5 on over 35 for Henry.
You know,
yeah,
maybe
just giving money away.
Well, you might have money to play with here. I haven't totaled up the boards, neither has Rob, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Allen Robinson was not listed on the Bears' final injury report for the wild card game against the Eagles on Sunday. This is according to the Chicago Bears public relations account on Twitter.
I love that, actually.
He did not play last week's game because of a rib injury. Allen Robinson was a full participant in all 3 practices this week, and he led the Bears in receiving yards per game this year with 58. David,
that's so pathetic.
Eagles defense, or excuse me, the Eagles secondary, really bad this year. Right. Allen Robinson, you think about, it's like throwing darts at the board, trying to get the right Bear in your playoff challenge this year. A lot of people are going to have the Bears defense. What about Allen Robinson?
I think he's an interesting option, actually. I think he or Tariq Cohen. I think Robinson's the sleeper of the sleeper, right? Because Cohen's kind of a little bit of
the sleeper of the sleeper.
Yeah, it's like Cohen's like the sleeper if you don't take the Bears D, right?
Right.
But then you take the sleeper of the sleeper in Allen Robinson and
right.
don't take Cohen. I think that's a good pick.
Okay. All right. I'm listening, and it's not.
My point is over. There's nothing else to talk about.
No, I mean I'm just saying like I was a little bit lukewarm on it, but now I'm warming up to it. Allen Robinson. The other thing with him is he is a big play type guy. And he has been in this offense this year. I think that he's definitely interesting if you're looking to go against the proverbial grain. You definitely could hit a home run here with Allen Robinson, because you think about it, like you should be able to attack the Eagles secondary. Maybe the game, and if they do play the Rams next week, which I think they would for sure if they win. That game could be a shootout, and maybe Robinson catches a lot of passes that game too. So there's something to be said there about Allen Robinson.
What about Jordan Howard?
No, I mean I know he's been coming on. In fact, I saw a stat today. This is kind of a BS stat, but if I'm remembering this correctly, Dave, from weeks 13 through 17, Jordan Howard's yards per carry were 37% higher than they were from weeks 1 to 12.
Oh, that's great.
So he's coming on. He's peaking at the right time.
He definitely gets the ball inside the 5. I mean, he's a great goal line back.
For what it's worth, we typically see offenses slow down in the postseason. This could be Jordan Howard's type game rather than Tariq Cohen. So that is what you can say about that. Kiki QT is, according to Bill O'Brien, trending in the right direction as he tries to play tomorrow in the wild card game against the Colts. He's probably going to be a game time decision. He's only appeared in 6 games so far on the regular season due to this hamstring injury. But Dave, the Texans are going to need him, especially if it becomes into a shootout game with Watson versus Luck. There is no Demaryius Thomas. He tore his Achilles. Kiki QT, again, there's some upside here. You can't really play him in the playoff challenge, though.
I can't. I don't want to talk about this player. I hate him.
You hate Kiki QT?
Yeah.
I own him in one dynasty.
He and his hamstring can screw off. I mean, if I own him on any leagues, I'm like pitching him for a 3rd-round pick. I don't even care.
I was just going to ask you, would you trade him for a 3rd-round pick?
I'm sick of hearing about his injury report.
I would trade you a 3rd-round pick.
I get that. I mean,
you don't have him in any leagues. That's the problem.
I get that he's worth more than that, but just get him off my roster so I don't have to continuously see him sitting there and annoying me. This hamstring injury is not going to be a 6-game, 1-year thing.
Right.
This is a career type of thing that he's going to be going on in 2024. We're going to be like, oh, cutie, questionable again on the injury report for, the Chargers or wherever he's playing. So forget it. I'm getting off my team.
No, I get it. I'm with you. T.Y. Hilton, let's talk about him. Zach Kiefer reports that he would have missed time down the stretch if the Colts weren't in must-win situations. So now let's look at the 2 ways that you can look at this. The fact that he's at a much higher risk of re-injury to that ankle because he has been playing when he shouldn't have, or he's an effing warrior and he's going to ball out in the playoffs. Andrew Luck has been throwing to him a ton. There was what was the stat that he was averaging like 17 yards per target or something in like the last 3 weeks per target, Dave, in the last 3 weeks of the season? That's insane. And then really the second half of the season, he's been awesome this year for the Colts. T.Y. Hilton, as far as we haven't talked about the Colts, what you do with them in the postseason, what would you be doing as far as T.Y. Hilton as a Colt on your playoff challenge roster?
I don't think he's on my team, but I think he's definitely warrants consideration. I think he, even though with the injuries, he's a gamer type player. So I do. He
is a gamer, yeah.
Yeah, he always comes out and plays. I was actually just wondering how many Inman rosters there might be. Dontrell Inman 1 over under. 2. We can move.
Inman. How many teams do you have to own in the playoff challenge to have an Inman roster?
I'm just wondering. We'll have to check. We won't bet it, but I'm curious if one.
I feel bad because I think Darren Armani emailed me earlier today, and I haven't responded to him yet because I've been so busy about ownership percentages. We need to, because did we put out that, or does Darren put out that, the FFPC ownership percentages?
I know one person who doesn't put it out.
You.
That's right.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
A lot of times it gets out there. I have no idea who does it though.
All right. Fair enough. Well, so no promises that may or may not be put out there. Without further ado, let's reveal our playoff lineups. Now,
this is where you always say, how do you want to do it? Do you want to do this or that?
No, I'm not going to say that yet. Just give me a second. Full disclosure, disclaimer, Dave and I cannot participate in the FFPC playoff challenge. But if we could, and we had one team to submit, this is what our lineups would look like. Now, Dave, how would you like to do this? Would you like to go position by position?
Here we go.
Would you like to go team by team? Well, because I don't know how you want to do it. Go ahead. How do you want to?
How do we usually do it?
I don't know. So I'm asking you. Quarterback?
Sure, quarterback. Let's start with what position?
Or do we, let's do the crappy position. Let's do kicker first.
All right, great.
All right, and we'll fire it off that way. So who is your kicker, good sir?
Janikowski.
From Seattle.
Yeah.
So you went Janikowski there. All right. I'm
having a little bit of remorse on that, but that's all right.
I have the Baltimore Ravens wunderkind.
Tucker.
Justin Tucker
as
my kicker this year, and my Ravens representative.
All right.
Again, I've made this point abundantly clear. I think that the Ravens lose in the first round, but I do think that this game, you could get lucky with a couple of 50-yard bombs from Justin Tucker, so that's the way I'm rolling with that. Your defense, Dave.
I'm going chalk. I'll take the Bears.
As do I. I just cannot trust anybody in that Bears offense. I think if you're submitting multiple entries, it makes sense to have a Robinson, a Cohen, maybe even a Trey Burton. I think that would make some sense there too. But I am going chalk with the Bears. Let's move to. I'll let you pick the next position.
Let's just keep shooting up. Well, let's go quarterback.
Quarterback. All right, let's do quarterback.
I went with Lamar Jackson from Baltimore.
This is interesting. So you go Lamar Jackson. Now, what is your because I think it's crucial to pick how far these teams are going. How many games are you expecting out of Lamar Jackson?
I think for sure 2 and possibly 3.
Okay, wow. So you really like the Ravens.
Well, and they have, Football Outsiders has their playoff odds. I think they have a 4% chance of winning the Super Bowl. I forgot what their chances of already getting there, like 8 or 10 or something like that. Which isn't great, but again, you're trying to compete against 4,249 other teams. So I think he's a very interesting player. I think his
high ceiling, high floor.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his lack of playoff experience, because he's a running quarterback, is actually much less important than if he was a guy who was throwing it 40 times a game. I think Mahomes' playoff inexperience actually could be more important or possibly negative against him than Lamar Jackson's. That was kind of indicative in his last couple of games where he had some clutch throws. He just way overthrew players. And Lamar Jackson, he'll do that anyway, just because he's not that accurate yet. But he's going to rush for 100 yards in that game, probably score a touchdown, maybe 2 rushing, and then you still have the other stuff going on.
A couple things to unpack what you just said there. Number one, Patrick Mahomes, you're talking about him versus Lamar Jackson. You missed the obvious advantage that you will have with Jackson over Mahomes is ownership. There's going to be a ton more people who own Mahomes than Lamar Jackson, in my opinion. So you have the advantage there. Now, the negative about Lamar Jackson, and this doesn't really affect him in season long, but in the playoff challenge, he does have a penchant for turning the ball over, which could cut your playoff challge dream short. Whereas I don't think that necessarily affects Mahomes as much.
One of the nice things that Mahomes, you have 3 other players to choose from now, and you really don't have a lot of options in Baltimore.
You can't pick a running back there. I mean, God knows what's going to happen. You for sure can't pick a receiver.
For God's sakes, Crabtree should be, taken out behind the barn as well.
Yeah, to go off to the glue factory. Is that racist that I compared him to a horse or no?
No, I don't. Not at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Because Jordy Nelson should have been taken out behind the glue factory, and he's white.
Yeah. But he shouldn't be. Did you see him at the end of the tail end of the season? He was crushing it.
No, actually, what I meant to say is Gruden should be taken behind the glue factory and shot.
Yeah. I'm a terrible coach, Dave. I should not have a job.
Just give me that $90 million.
You kidding me? Let me tell you something about that Mark Davis. That guy wastes his money, man.
My contract.
He never should have given me a $10 million contract.
Your imitation of him is about 20 times better than your Trump. It's a very good imitation.
You know why it's better than my Trump is because I do.
Because your Trump stuff.
No. I do the impression, which I don't even like Alec Baldwin's impression of Trump all that much. I thought Daryl Hammond is such a better SNL impersonator of Trump than Baldwin. But that's what I hear now. Like when I see Trump, I see Baldwin do it.
Yeah, I know.
And I referenced it earlier, so I'm not giving you the promo again. But in the span of
that's weird.
In the span of like 20 seconds, I did like back-to-back Bill Belichick and Barack Obama impressions on the air, back-to-back.
Oh, Obama would be fun.
Yeah, about Josh McDaniels being an intern at the White House. I'm not going to get into how we got on the subject, but it was very funny.
Right, nice.
All right, so thank you. So my quarterback, I said it's very crucial. And actually, I was on the Fantasy Alarm with Howard Bender and SiriusXM earlier this week. And we were talking about, how important it is to figure out who you imagine getting to the Super Bowl because you got to get those Super Bowl picks right because you get double points there. And I said, I think my NFC representative, and again, this isn't shocking, but I think the Saints are my NFC representative to get the Super Bowl. So my quarterback is, in fact, Drew Brees. Now, I know he has let fantasy owners down for a good portion of the season. In fact, he is one of the worst fantasy quarterbacks out there for a stretch of about 6 weeks in the last third of the season. However, I think he turns it on for the playoffs. I think he's a guy that is going to be very crucial to the Saints' success. Remember, Alvin Kamara catches a lot of passes. Mark Ingram will catch passes. And Michael Thomas had one of the best. I mean, we don't talk about this enough, and we will as we get to get into the offseason. We'll get into pros versus Joes. We'll get into redraft season. Michael Thomas is going to be a slam dunk first-round pick next year, and he's going to be a high first-round pick, in my opinion. 1,400-plus yards, like 120 catches, something insane like that. First-team All-Pro. He was awesome. Quarterback that was throwing to him the entire season was Drew Brees, and I guess Taysom Hill for a handful of plays. But I will say this about Drew Brees. I think this could be his year, and I'm not going to make a Super Bowl prediction yet. But I will say I think the Saints win the NFC Championship, get to the Super Bowl, and Drew Brees is my Saint.
That's nice. That's all you need.
Yeah. That was quarterback. Would you like to do running back, receiver,
Let's do running back.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give my chalk running back away here. I know he's not on your team. I happen to side with Joe Conte and a lot of what he was saying about Todd Gurley, and Todd Gurley is my chalk running back. You can't be super different on all your picks. I'm going to be super different about a couple of mine for sure. This is not one of them. I have Todd Gurley as my number one running back.
Well, since you're mentioning Gurley and you're mentioning that team, I'm going to give you my
Here we go.
Ultra sleeper, C.J. Anderson.
Buckle up.
Gurley just said he's not 100%. His knee's not 100%.
Right.
I'm not trying to win $200 or
right.
$400 or whatever. Actually, I'm not trying to win it all because this is fake line. But I'm trying to win $200,000. There's always some sort of quirky crap that goes on. All Gurley needs to do is A, come out and be limited, or B, come out and play and get dinged up, or C, play even a full game and then get dinged up the week after. Anything can happen. Anderson has proved he's a top caliber back. Even if Gurley plays, let's just say the Rams actually make it to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So they're playing 3 games max, right? Because they have a week 1 bye.
Right.
So even if Gurley plays 1 game and Anderson does like nothing, and he plays in the first quarter of the second game and then he gets dinged up or hurt, Anderson now could have potentially 1 3/4 games and outperform Gurley for that period of time.
High risk, high reward. You might not even say it's a high risk.
I mean, I think it's worth it. If you're, maybe, granted, this is my 1K team, but if you have like 8 or 10 teams, I think putting an Anderson team in is kind of worth
a must. I definitely agree with you on that. My next running back, again, I don't think this is shocking, but he won a lot of people fantasy titles the last few weeks of the season. And this is another team, Dave, that I think gets a road win on Wild Card Weekend. And I think it's due to the running style and running ability and catching the ball style of one Chris Carson for the Seattle Seahawks. So he is my second running back.
Actually, I really love the Chris Carson pick, and I really want to try and fit Carson in there because when you have the Seahawks, you have Russell Wilson, you have Carson, a great coaching staff, and this is a team that really could go all the way. And I know that the odds aren't that great. I love Seattle. I love the organization. And I think Carson's a great. They always give him the ball inside the 5, so I like that pick a lot.
Okay, let's shift our focus real quick. Just
but damn it, I didn't get him in there.
For season long next year, I can't imagine that the Seahawks do too much different at running back. McKissick, whatever, Procise, whatever, Mike Davis, whatever. Rashad Penny and Chris Carson next year. Where do you draft Chris Carson? If you're drafting in a 2019 league right now, is he a third-round pick? Does that seem right?
I'd say like fourth.
Fourth?
Probably.
Okay.
Third or fourth. I mean, he's a great player, but you still have to deal with the Penny coming on type thing, and they have a lot more draft capital in him. However, they have not shown they don't seem like they care. They're just going to give the ball to the better player, and Carson is that player right now.
Yeah. Back to the playoff challenge. You're number 2 running back.
I'm going with Zeke Elliott. That's a little bit of a chalky play, but that's all right. I mean,
same game. Yeah.
So.
Do you think you obviously think the Cowboys win that game then?
I think they have a 50-50 shot, but I also think Elliott has. Now, granted, I took Janikowski, but I think they have a little bit better than 50-50 shot. They're favorites, I believe, and by 2.
Yeah.
And Elliott, I think even if they lose, he might have a 20-point game. So that's actually solid. Just like Ertz, I feel like if they lose, at least they'll have probably a good game on the way out.
And how I was talking about when Howard Bender and I were previewing this game, I said this is one of those games that I think is going to be it seems like it's a great matchup, 2 evenly balanced teams. This game might not be all that fun to watch because it's going to be a ton of running, it's going to be a ton of defense. Give me the under, even if it's at 17.
Not quite that low.
Yeah, it won't be that low, but all right. So that's my number 2 running back. Wide receiver or tight end? Where are you going next?
Let's go receiver.
Wide receiver. Okay, so let's.
You make it fast, possibly.
Okay, I'll make it fast. Is everybody
falling
asleep?
No, I'm saying.
Keenan Allen is my number 1 receiver.
Maybe not that.
I believe the Chargers get the win on the road, 7-1 on the road this season, making a start against Lamar Jackson, making his first career playoff start. I think the Chargers find a way to get it done. This is one of the best teams, not just in the AFC, but in the NFL. They were almost the number 1 seed in the AFC because of the NFL's archaic structure of the playoffs. They dropped from the number 1 seed to the number 5 seed. I think they find a way to get it done. And give me 2 games of Keenan Allen. Could be more, and I don't know how high owned he's going to be given that Melvin Gordon's on his same team. I like Keenan Allen.
Not bad. I didn't take any Chargers, by the way, so obviously it's not Keenan Allen. I took DeAndre Hopkins as my number 1 receiver, and it's because he's DeAndre Hopkins. I don't have to say much more about it.
No, you don't. And my number 2 receiver, Dave, DeAndre Hopkins.
So yeah. By the way, I didn't take any Dolts either. No fault.
He's going to have a large target share. I know he's dinged up a little bit, but especially if that turns into a shootout, man, it's going to be a lot of action for DeAndre Hopkins. He's my number 2 receiver. Who's your number 2 receiver?
Michael Thomas, as you took Drew Brees. I'm taking the guy that Drew Brees throws to like a zillion times a game. I think there's a chance that that even if they play a bunch of games, Thomas could even score in the neighborhood of Brees.
Let's move on here, Dave, to our tight end. Who is your tight end? I have a feeling I know who it is.
Zach Ertz.
Oh, okay. And you mentioned that earlier. I think you did.
I did. Only 1 tight end, and that's Ertz.
I have 2 tight ends. My number 1 tight end, Travis Kelce. I have Travis Kelce. I don't think that there needs to be much explanation. He was the number 1 tight end all season long, tight end premium format, and I believe that the Chiefs Dave, get to the AFC Championship game. I believe they get there.
Football.
I don't believe they win it.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
So that is my number 1 tight end. Your first flex.
We may have the same here. I have Edelman.
We definitely do not. Should I reveal my Patriot?
Sure, go for it.
There's one guy in the FFPC playoff challenge that always seems to rise to the challenge in the playoffs every single year. I am not betting against it this year. I am betting that it will happen again. James White is going to go on a crazy run. No Josh Gordon, aging Edelman, aging Gronkowski. I think they ride James White. Aging Brady Arm, by the way. I think they ride James White. I think he crushes it all the way, Dave, into the Super Bowl. Where
I love it.
I am projecting a Patriots-Saints Super Bowl where I will have Drew Brees and James White.
God, that's really, what's so sad about the Patriots-Saints Super Bowl? seeing the tears come down Drew Brees' former mole over the right side of his face.
Tears of joy.
As Brady wins yet another one.
Can you imagine that?
He and his supermodel wife jet off into the sunset.
Right.
So some coast of France. Anyway,
so in your number one flex was Edelman. Who's your number two flex?
I went with Tyreek the Freak.
Tyreek the Freak is your chief, and here's my other not shocking pick. I don't think the Colts are going to be able to run against the Texans. I think they are going to struggle. A guy who has really not struggled on the Colts all season long, who had a career year, who is going to the Pro Bowl, and who had hands of stone prior to 2018 was Eric Ebron.
Yeah, baby.
Things have changed. Eric Ebron, tight end premium format. Regardless of what happens in that game, I'm loving having Ebron or DeAndre Hopkins in the second round in this contest. So Ebron is my number two flex.
You know, the Colts situation, Ebron, Hilton, or Marlon Mack, actually, he's had a bunch of 30-point games.
Right. The issue with Mack is, and John Hansen and Adam Kaplan said this this morning on Fantasy Football Morning on Sirius XM Radio, which, by the way, John Hansen says today is his favorite day of the year. Does that make any sense to you?
No.
Yeah, I agree. Kaplan pointed out, he's like, I'm staying away from Marlon Mack. Like, John Hansen loved Marlon Mack, but Kaplan said he's staying away. He's like, look, this is not you can't really run at Houston. Wow. And Marlon Mack earlier this season did not do anything when it was like 14 carries for like 30 yards or something like that.
So 1 game sample size. That's
2 games. They play him twice.
Well, regardless, I don't have Mack in this, but I think that he could actually. He's had some big games. I think he could do all right. Well, especially thinking of big league early.
John Hansen's analysis was, the Colts are going to take Marlon Mack's ass. They're going to run his ass right down the ass, right up the ass of the Texans' ass. That guy using the ass word over and over again. It's insane.
Oh, that's great.
So anyway, I am staying away from Marlon Mack. You're right. I mean, he could be a pick-to-win type guy. He could blow up here not only this weekend, but if the Colts are fortunate enough to win, to move on and blow up next weekend. So just to recap our rosters here real quick for everybody who just fast-forwarded to the end.
No one cares.
I have Drew Brees as my quarterback. Running backs are Todd Gurley, Chris Carson, and James White. Receivers are Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins. Tight ends, Eric Ebron, Travis Kelce. Justin Tucker is my kicker, and defense is the Chicago Bears. Dave?
Lamar Jackson at quarterback, Ezekiel Elliott, C.J. Anderson, or if you don't have any balls, you can take Todd Gurley. DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Julian Edelman, Tyreek Hill, Zach Ertz, Sebastian Janikowski, and the Bears defense. That's going to win you maybe your money back.
Well, we'll see. Do you want to put 5 on our lineups, and
sure.
I'll have Rob tabulate these?
Yeah, that sounds good. That'll be fun.
I got 5 on my playoff challenge lineup.
I got 5 on mine.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to do it for our extended show tonight. I want to thank Joe Conte, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course each and every one of you. Now, Dave, programming note: I believe you are off next week again.
Yes, I will be in Las Vegas with Farrell and Drew Maselli.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll be watching. We'll be watching the game.
Yeah, KFFC Commissioner Farrell Elliott, and of course Drew Maselli, one half of the team, Jam Ricky Vaughn in the FFPC.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to see how many write-offs I can pick up, just because they're technically customers.
You are out there for, this is not an FFPC thing.
I'm actually out there for CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, where it's me and a bunch of 150,000 nerds.
All right. So now, Dave, you are one of the treasures of this show. Obviously, you cannot be replaced by one person on this show.
I'm sure this will be better than normal.
Next week, with me, with yours truly, the Pros versus Joes overall champs, bringing the title back to the Joes. Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs will be co-hosting with me next week in Dave's stead. Remember to check out rotoviz.com/podcast to hear Tejas Badewala and Harshal Sheth on the High Stakes Lowdown. Can we get a count on how many teams are left in the playoff challenge, Dave?
Working on it.
You're working on it.
227.
227. Good luck to everybody. Go register for that world-famous playoff challenge. Get to the playoff challenge mini. We'll have that sent out to you sometime tonight or early tomorrow morning. Enjoy the playoffs. Your weekend starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. That was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
All right, thanks for talking over that. That was great.
No one cares about listening to the blow the whistle like Too Short.
What everybody likes. Seriously, you know how many?
By the way, that's a great song, but
right.
they've heard it.
But I'm just got like on Twitter, on emails, I get a lot of feedback that they love that. They love that.
I like that
song.
I love Too Short.
Rob and I need to work on that, get together and get that fixed. Final question from the chat room. Bourbon City Ballers wants to know, what's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour schedule for the next blank months?
Every Friday night. 226 now.
For me, it will be every Friday night. For Dave, it will be one out of every 3 weeks.
I don't think I'm leaving. I think I'm around.
No, you won't be on next week. There is a Friday coming up where you and I are both not around, but we will have a pre-recorded show that week. Actually, you will not be on it, but we still will be doing every Friday night going forward year round. That's the plan. And if anything changes, we'll let you know. But we're here from you. There's going to be a lot of playoff talk, a lot of dynasty talk coming up. So that is where we are at on that. And good luck in the playoff challenge, everybody. We certainly appreciate you listening. Have a very happy, fun, and enjoyable Wild Card weekend.
Merry Christmas. What? We're past it?
I need a drink.
Happy New Year.